Hi, everybody. We're taking this time out and doing some fun stuff for history. I'm trying something new. We're going to do just some fun history that I don't really have a whole lot of time to do in class. So we're going to do today. I thought we'd do the fun little tidbit over stuff, like I said, that we don't normally get to do in history class. So today, I'm going to tell you the story about Betty. Betty is 9 years old, and she's Samuel's daughter. And in 1692, she and her cousin Abigail began to have fits. And Abigail was found crouched beneath a chair in her house, her hands pressed against the sides of her head, twisting and writhing and complaining about being tormented. And when things got really bad, she would collapse on the ground, like she was boneless, like there were no bones, or she would seize up and contort her body just unbelievably. And so this led her uncle, who she was living with, to think at first it was just an illness. And being 1692, there's not a lot of antibiotics or things like that around. And so they were worried that the illness would spread. And so eventually it did. And Betty, that you see here, began to act like Abigail, contorting her body, clutching her head, just complaining about all sorts of things. Eventually, a doctor came and tried all sorts of different treatments on the girls, and nothing worked. It's 1692. It's Massachusetts. They're very deeply religious. And so it eventually came to be understood that something evil had pervaded the house. Something evil was preying on the girls and cursing them. Eventually, 4 girls are going to be involved in this. And what we're going to talk about today is the Salem Witch Trials. The Salem Witch Trials lasted from February of 1692 until April of 1693, so for a full year. And by the time everything is said and done, 19 were convicted and executed, including children. And 4 of the accused had actually died in prison. And 1 man is pressed to death for refusing to admit his guilt or innocence. Between 100 and 200 others are going to be arrested and sent to jail. And even 2 dogs are suspected of being familiars with witches and are killed. So let's talk about Salem at this time period. When we look at Salem, you can see here that Salem was here, but there were other towns outside from where Salem actually was. And these are going to come into play deeply into what's going on. In the 1630s, a group of farmers moved 5 miles away here to Salem Village. And they began to petition to be their own town. And by 1672, they were able to establish their own church. These settlers who settled here in the 1630s, because that's when the time period actually is, were Puritans. Puritans are a sect of Protestantism that saw Christianity, the Church of England. They were part of the Anglican Church in England, and they saw it as needing to be purified of the Catholic trappings, and they wanted a new start. They're very devout believers. This guy that you see on your screen right now, this is Samuel Parris. He was the leader of the church in Salem town. He was actually their 4th leader. The Puritans had very strict rules they had to follow. And the rules began to loosen up in Salem because of the influx of all the new people. And as the colony grew, they spread out. They wanted to collect their own taxes, but they still had to go all the way back to Salem town to participate in things like the Night's Watch and the militia, and they still had to pay taxes to Salem town. Hence the reason that they want to break away and form their own little town. In the 1670s, Salem town, that one that had broke away and formed its own little place, had started to look for their own minister. And they go through 3 guys before they settle on this guy, this guy here, Samuel Parris. 1689 is when he comes to do it. Parris's grandfather had been a slave trader. So Samuel grew up on the island of Barbados in the Caribbean, and they owned